All right, everybody. Good morning. It is straight up top of the hour, 57 degrees on the 29th day of March of 2023. We have Joseph Lee right here with Impact Counseling and Consulting Services. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here. Hello to all the listeners worldwide. Got a serious topic to talk about today. I know we have we briefed a little bit before we started today, which we normally don't do.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot to talk about today. This is a topic that we have brought up many times on this show. As a clinician, as a therapist, and someone who's worked in the schools for many years and is one of the trainers for the Texas Black School Board Member Association. This is a heavy day. And so we're going to do a little untraditional or a little unconventional thing on this show. We're going to show two videos today that I think are going to say exactly the sentiment that I want to discuss today. And then I'm going to bring up an important shift toward the end of the show. So we got a lot to cover. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to try to share my screen, and then we're going to show a couple videos, and hopefully these will play adequately.
All right.
So let me see here. Trying to get technical now. So let me see. So Ron, I can't tell if it's showing the other screen.
Yes.
It's not showing. Yeah. It is?
Showing,
okay.
Yes.
Now let me know if you have audio, because this is going to be, something that hopefully we can hear. So can you guys hear this or no? Let me see. Is it going to play? It's going to act up on. All right. Looks like it's going to act up. Okay. Can you guys hear that or no?
No.
Okay. So let me do this. Let me take this Bluetooth off and cut this part off here. And we're going to try to get to it. Technical difficulties. See, this is not my area.
That's all right. That's all right.
All right. Let's see if we can get this going here.
States Senate without ever
Now
noticing.
here, now can you enlarge the picture, the video?
Prayer of each Senate day. Then came Navy Chaplain Barry Black 20 years ago, who is now the second longest serving chaplain in Senate history. He holds the rank of Rear Admiral in the Navy and opened the Senate session today with these words.
Lord, when babies die at a church school, it is time for us to move beyond thoughts and prayers. Remind our lawmakers of the words of the British statesman Edmund Burke. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Lord, deliver our senators from the paralysis of analysis that waits for the miraculous. Use them to battle the demonic forces that seek to engulf us. We pray in your powerful name. Amen.
I, for one, have never heard a chaplain say it is time for us to move beyond thoughts and prayers. Unfortunately, for the Senate and the country, no speaker is more ignored in the Senate than the chaplain, especially by Republicans, all of whom publicly profess their own personal religiosity. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who publicly professes his religiosity, made no attempt today, as the Senate chaplain put it, to battle the demonic forces that seek to engulf us.
Yeah. Senator Graham, do you think there's any possibility for movement on an assault weapons ban? No.
Lindsey Graham then said he proudly owns an assault weapon himself, an AR-15. He owns it for no other reason than to tell gun worshipers who vote Republican that he owns one. 3 9-year-old children were murdered in yesterday's school shooting in a private religious school in Nashville 3 school officials were murdered. And today, after absolutely refusing the possibility of not letting America's mass murderers legally buy AR-15s, which is exactly the way yesterday's mass murderer acquired the 2 AR-15s used in that mass murder, Lindsey Graham offered the new Republican solution of the day.
I think the best thing we could have done is had some cops in that school when she shot the place up.
Some cops. How many? It's a school of 200 students. So some cops, meaning 2 or 3? 2 heroic police officers, without waiting for massive amounts of backup or impenetrable shields, ran straight toward the sound of the shooter yesterday and shot and killed the murderer. Officer Rex Engelbert and Officer Michael Colazzo's heroism kept the body count in that school down to 3 adults and 3 9-year-old children. There are 115,000 public and private schools from kindergarten through grade 12 in America. The school of 200 students needs, as Lindsey Graham said, some cops to guard the school every day. Then Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, with over 3,000 students, would need several dozen police officers to patrol the halls of that school. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School had 1 police officer on duty on the day the mass murder broke out there 5 years ago, but that police officer wasn't able to stop any of the 17 murders that happened in that school that day. Lindsey Graham knows that the total number of police officers in America is now about 700,000. What he proposed today is a police force at least triple that size, a police force of millions more police officers just for schools, just to stop people from going into our schools with the kind of assault weapon that Lindsey Graham loves so much that he has one himself. Every Republican senator who claims to you that they are what they call pro-life because they oppose abortion is lying to you. You cannot be pro-life in this country if you support America's mass murderers' right to legally buy an AR-15, the weapon that so terrified 400 Texas police officers in Uvalde that they were afraid of confronting the mass murderer in Robb Elementary School for 77 minutes. Officer Rex Engelbert and Officer Michael Colazzo were both afraid of confronting that mass murderer who had 2 AR-15s, but they did it anyway. Heroism is not being fearless. Heroism is taking action despite your fear. In Texas, 400 police officers were afraid of doing what the first 2 Nashville police officers at the scene of yesterday's mass murder did right away. And still, in that demonstration of the very greatest level of bravery we could ever hope police officers to choose, still 3 9-year-old children are dead. Evelyn Dykehouse, Allie Scruggs, and William Kenny. And 3 adults were murdered: the head of the school, Catherine Coons, a substitute teacher, Cynthia Peak, and school custodian, Mike Hill. The most dismissible word you will ever hear in the coverage of these events is motive. It is reflexive for the news media, and it is reflexive for the police to use that word, because motive is something that has been discussed in traditional crime analysis for as long as there have been police forces and reporters covering police forces. But madness does not have a motive. Madness is relentlessly dangerous in and of itself. The mass murderer's parents rightly did not want their child to have guns. They had no idea that their child had legally purchased with no problem 7 guns. including 2 AR-15s. No one has ever proposed any legislation that would have prevented a person like that from buying an AR-15, except an actual ban on the sale of AR-15s, which Joe Biden accomplished as a senator in a ban that lasted 10 years. Only a very small percentage of mentally unstable people who would meet the qualifications for an insanity defense in court are ever diagnosed before they engage in criminal conduct.
The goal is to get guns out of the hands of people that are mentally unstable or criminals.
He knows that's an impossible goal. Some legal gun purchasers only become criminals the first time they use their legally purchased gun in a crime. So you never could have prevented that criminal from having that gun. And some mentally unstable people only prove just how mentally unstable they are the first time they use their gun, their AR-15, in a school shooting. And so there is no form of background check that can prevent the legal sale of AR-15s to people who will go into our schools and murder children and teachers. And Lindsey Graham knows that. He's just lying his way through the latest murder of children. The same lies Republicans always use after these murders. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when Republicans were no more in favor of gun rights than Democrats were. But then Republican campaign pollsters found the sliver of the electorate that cares obsessively about guns and added them to the sliver of the electorate that cares obsessively about stopping all abortions, and added them to the electorate that hates taxes and liberals. And that became their only formula for winning elections. Conservative Republican President Richard Nixon chose the conservative Warren Burger to be Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, knowing that Warren Burger would steer the court in a more conservative direction, which he did. But the one thing that Warren Burger could not abide was the fetishism about the Second Amendment that he saw beginning to develop when he was Chief Justice. Here is Chief Justice Burger in 1991, 5 years after he retired from the Supreme Court.
If I were writing the Bill of Rights now, there wouldn't be any such thing as the Second Amendment.
Which says
That's a well-regulated militia being necessary for the defense of the state, the people's rights to bear arms. This has been the subject of one of the greatest pieces of fraud, I repeat the word fraud, on the American public by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime. Now just look at those words. There are only 3 lines to that amendment. A well-regulated militia. If the militia, which was going to be the state army, was going to be well-regulated, why shouldn't 16 and 17 and 18 or any other aged persons be regulated in the use of arms, the way an automobile is regulated?
The Republican fraud perpetrated by Presidents George W. Bush and Donald Trump and Republican members of the House of Representatives and Republican senators will continue to get children and teachers murdered in their classrooms by legally purchased AR-15s because it is the Republican Party policy to make sure that America's mass murderers are the very best equipped mass murderers in the world. No school in the world has seen a better equipped mass murderer enter that school than the mass murderer who entered that school in Nashville yesterday carrying the weapons that Republicans like Lindsey Graham fetishize. Even the Senate chaplain said today, it is time for us to move beyond thoughts and prayers. The Senate chaplain is telling Republican senators that their prayers aren't good enough, but none of them will be moved to try to protect the lives of 9-year-olds or any other student in America, because, to again use the words the Senate chaplain today, Republican politicians have already lost the battle to the demonic forces that seek to engulf us.
Man.
All right. So
Yeah.
that's the first video. After I saw that, I said I had to share it. I think that outlines exactly what we've been saying on this show, and it culminated. Now I want to show another video that I'm going to have to I want to process with everybody here as a therapist, as someone who's had to work with this population, and something I've been saying for years, and we've been talking about that the LGBTQ community. Everybody knows as a licensed therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, we know that who are the most vulnerable. We are trained, we are made aware of that this community is the most vulnerable and most likely to commit suicide. Okay. I have responded even recently to a call. I cannot go into details because it's confidential, but I've responded to a call where a member of the LGBTQ community committed suicide or overdosed. And you got to understand something about suicidal homicidal ideation. A person will either implode or explode, or a combination thereof. And that's exactly what happened in Nashville. So I'm going to show the video to outline exactly what's going on. And we have this new issue, this new phenomenon called the non-binary community, right? And it's not really a new issue, but it's kind of a new era in this community, in this LGBTQ community. And we also talked about in this show a while back, if you look at all the school shootings and the things that have happened, I'm going to get some stats in a second before I go into this video. Or maybe I'll go into the video and then give you the stats. You know, it's something that we're going to have to get our mind around, and we're trying to get this education out. This is why this show, I think, is important to get out, because we're given the politics. We see part of the problem, but we have to understand this problem in full context. When people explode or implode, or the combination thereof, and then we have the influx of weapons into our country. M16 or the ARs, M4s, all, you know, semi-automatic weapons, a horrible understanding of the Second Amendment. We've got a loophole that is now causing, as we talked about it, and you named it, the new pandemic.
Yeah.
The new pandemic. Now, before we get into that, I want to show this video real quick, because I think a lot of people don't really know right now who Audrey Hale was. And it's very interesting if you look at this. Let's see if I can pull the video up here. How this went down, and we'll kind of process it a little bit once I pull this up. I know we're going to be running short on time a little bit, but I'm going to make my point pretty quick. And then we'll have a little time for conversation, hopefully after this video. But wow. Man, I can't get this thing to do what I want it to do. Okay, let me see here. So let me stand by here a minute. And let's see if I can move this down. All right. I've got something going on with the screen here, and I cannot get it to move. So anyway, go ahead, Ron, and you can go ahead and start with some of the things here that you want to talk about. Now I'll try to get this video.
All right. Up. Well, we were talking about off air, the way the thing is going. We had brought up in the past shows that nothing happened in none of the churches, schools, and I felt they were secure that nobody will dare step into a church and do anything. But yet I thought back the church in North Carolina where they sat down there, they talked with the guy and everything. He got up and started shooting. Churches, hospitals, schools should be sacred. We shouldn't have to worry about our kids, let alone adults and churches and stuff for this to happen. But yet again, it's happening. I mean, even the Geneva Convention during war saying do not bomb hospitals and stuff. You know, it's an unspoken word that we shouldn't do that. And so as we were talking yesterday, me and Joseph Lee were talking yesterday, I said, well, this is a new pandemic. Shootings. We have more shootings than we have calendar days. As of today, the number of mass shootings exceed the calendar days up to date right now. And it just doesn't make any sense. What is going on in people's mind? Not only are you going in there, but you're taking somebody else's child's life. You are changing, you're altering the life of everybody. And it just doesn't make any sense. Matter of fact, there was a lady who was interviewed, said she survived the Highland Park shooting last year on the 4th of July. And she goes to Nashville to visit her sister in another shooting. Her exact words, when is this going to stop? She said, we're not safe in schools, we're not safe in stores, we're not safe in churches. She was just naming off everything. Basically, she was saying, we're not safe anywhere because we never know who's going to go off.
So
And we got to be aware of our surroundings. If you see somebody 90 degrees weather wearing a heavy trench coat, there's a problem.
situational awareness is a key part of it. You know, not being soft targets is a part of it, but also understanding the phenomenon and things that are going on, the mental health issues. And I had to stop for a second. My daughter's on the way to school, so we had to stop and pray. So I don't care what I'm doing, show, whatever, that takes precedence, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we had to stop that. Now I did get this pulled up. Let me share my screen again. This is the other video I wanted to show, and this is specifically about this situation and gives you a little bit of background about Audrey Hill, which I think is important to understand in this case. I usually don't like highlighting the shooter in the situation but in this case, I think we need to talk about it a little bit and why this one is very unique and why this situation, I think, brings a different agenda that we have to address with this situation. So I'll get into it. I'll let the video speak for itself, and then we'll talk about it a little bit after.
All right.
Share screen here. Okay. How's it gonna play? Here we go.
Let's go.
We don't have the screen shared.
Okay, we don't. Okay, let me go to this screen. All right. Now can we see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Founding moments in the midst of a deadly school shooting. New body camera footage taking us inside. Sirens screeching overhead as Nashville police officers arrive at Covenant School in Tennessee.
Next, let's go.
Just minutes after the shooter opened fire, killing 6 people.
Door.
Quickly and methodically, the officers make their way through the first floor, checking every door, clearing classrooms along the way, eventually leading them up to the second floor.
It's upstairs. It sounds like it's upstairs.
Immediately, the cameras pick up the sound of gunfire. The officers plow forward. By 10:27, just 3 minutes after entering the school, officers Rex Engelbert and Michael Colazzo engaged the shooter and brought them down.
As they arrived on the property, there were police cars being hit by gunfire. I was really impressed that with all that was going on, the danger that somebody took control and said, let's go, and went in and took care and just try to end this situation.
In the wake of shootings at schools in Uvalde and Parkland, where law enforcement faced intense criticism for their response and delays, the Nashville police are now being credited with the quickness of its officers. Sadly, Covenant School now joins a long and growing list of mass shootings. So far this year, 59 kids under the age of 11 have been fatally shot, 131 injured. For children 12 to 17 years old, those numbers jump. More than 345 killed, more than 820 wounded. As of late March, there have been 130 mass shootings in the U.S.
My heart almost exploded, like, oh my God, it's happening here.
Katie Robbins lives across the street from Covenant School. She ran out to help a class of teachers and students who were on the playground, letting them into her condo complex.
It breaks my heart. It makes me angry. Our country can't go on like this because no other country has mass shootings like this. And this happened in my front yard. My front yard had children running away from a shooter. All of this is 1 degree away from me.
Chilling surveillance video shows the shooter driving in the parking lot before shooting through the locked glass doors of the school, then moved through the halls in what police call a pre-planned attack. Police say during that first blast through the doors, hit and killed 61-year-old Mike Hill, the much-loved school custodian. The head of the school, 60-year-old Catherine Coons, was found shot dead alone in a hallway. Police confirmed the other victims were found in different areas, including 61-year-old substitute teacher Cynthia Peak and 3 students, all 9 years old. Evelyn Dickhouse, whose family called her a shining light. William Kinney, described as having an unflappable spirit. And Hallie Scruggs, the daughter of the church's pastor. Her family calling her a gift.
We also don't have a motive at this time. We feel that these students that were targeted were randomly targeted.
The shooter is identified by police as 28-year-old former student Audrey Hale.
We've determined that Audrey bought 7 firearms from 5 different local gun stores. They were legally purchased.
That includes the 3 weapons carried during Monday's killings, 2 assault-style rifles, and a pistol. Police say the shooter's family was unaware any guns were in the home, and Hale had no criminal record.
She was under care, doctor's care, for an emotional disorder. Law enforcement knew nothing about the treatment she was receiving, but her parents felt that she should not own weapons. Had it been reported that she was suicidal or that she was going to kill someone and had been made known to us, then we would have tried to get those weapons.
Gun laws in Tennessee have become less strict in recent years, with state lawmakers removing requirements for permits and background checks. The legislature is currently considering a bill that would even further loosen state laws. In Washington, flags are flying at half-staff as the debate over gun control heats up once again.
I never thought when I started my public life that guns would be the #1 killer of children in America.
But Republican leaders say it's too soon to talk gun control.
There's an ongoing investigation, and I think we need to let the facts come out.
Congressman Andy Ogles, who represents that part of Nashville, has called the shooting a tragedy, but has also faced criticism for this photo of his family sent out during the holidays. Today, when pressed by reporters, he defended it and said he has no regrets.
Why would I regret a photograph with my family exercising my rights to bear arms?
Any congressional action you think at this point after this mass shooting?
I think this, again, we don't want to jump to any conclusions. Ultimately, I think what this does is highlight some of the mental health issues, the mental health crisis we have in this country.
Back in Tennessee, law enforcement is sorting through evidence taken from writings found at the shooter's home. Hale, who graduated from Nashville's Nosy College of Art and Design in 2022, seen in a video talking about growing as an artist.
It's been hard, but it's also been an amazing experience when it comes to developing my creative talents and growing as an artist.
Paige Patton knew Hale from back in middle school when they were on the basketball team together, but they didn't stay in regular contact.
My heart is just It's just, I'm speechless.
But Monday morning, just before 10 a.m., mere minutes before the shooting started, Patton says Hale sent her a message saying something bad was going to happen.
The messages reads, so basically that post I made on here about you, that was basically a suicide note. I'm planning to die today. This is not a joke. You'll probably hear about me on the news after I die. This is my last goodbye. I love you. See you again in another life. And then that's when I responded to her, Audrey, you have so much more life to live, and I pray God keeps and covers you. I know, but I don't want to live. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to upset you or get attention. I just need to die. It was just weird. So I tried to like comfort her, but I had sent a screenshot of the message she sent me to my dad. And I was like, what do I do?
Patton says she called a suicide prevention hotline to get Hale help, but that was only minutes before the shooting started.
I just wanted to get help. I didn't really know the severity of it.
It was heart-wrenching, honestly.
I spoke with Destiny Thomas, who met Hale in junior high and has been friends ever since. Police say Hale identified as transgender and had a social media profile using male pronouns. Destiny says the transition only started about 6 months ago.
At the time, she was Audrey Hill.
Thomas says most recently, Hale began complaining of extreme bouts of depression on social media.
Just a lot of not acceptance.
What happens on social media?
Depression. That depression taking over.
Patton says she too is still struggling to understand this whole thing and why Hale chose to reach out to her of all people.
Everybody's asking. It's like I'm asking God the same thing. I mean, I didn't know like this was this was going to be the aftermath.
Our thanks to Alex. And a reminder, if you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, free confidential help is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call or text the National Lifeline.
You know,
All right.
I just got to say this. What the hell is wrong with these politicians? Why do we have to keep on having meeting after meeting after meeting? Let them invest. The proof is in the pudding, is right there. I don't get it. It just pisses me off listening to that.
Yeah. Well, welcome to my world, Ron. This is what I've been dealing with since college. Actually, I became a crisis care responder right after Sandy Hook. So I've been trained by some of the people that responded to provide support services to Sandy Hook. Okay.
Yeah.
I've watched as the country has failed. These politicians have failed. They sit back with their talking points, laughing, joking, sending pictures, as was in the video, of ARs and all that. Some of them never served in the military, don't even know the capability of the weapon that's in their hand, don't even know what it's supposed to be used for. And just go do a couple stats real quick, right? As of this year, 59 children under 11 have been fatally shot. 131 injured. Other points. Ages of 12 to 17 years old, 345 have been killed. 345 babies, young folks. 820 wounded. As of late March, 130 mass shootings in the United States. So guns are now the #1 killer of children in the United States. And we have politicians that are still confused and pointing to mental health as the solution. Well, here's the deal. You send people to therapists. The therapists do their job, say this person is homicidal, suicidal. But just as happened with Audrey Hill, she's still able to get firearms. We just talked about in the last show how even if you have a restraining order against you, the 5th District Court just said you can you know, it's not illegal to take their arms away from somebody who has presented to a judge enough that there is a restraining order that has to be placed against them. In Nashville right now, there are still legislations on the book that they're trying to put on the book that's going to loosen the gun laws as we speak. So on one hand, they want to say it's a mental health issue, and yeah, obviously, common sense, right? It's a mental health issue, but there's also a legal loophole that we have to close. This situation with the pronoun community, the non-binary community, it's growing. We have never, not that I know of, have seen a active shooter in a religious-based school. Remember we said that a few shows ago. Never seen active shooters going into a religious-based school. Now, we can look at this in a spiritual aspect, or we can look at that as a psychological aspect. Take your pick. Schools and our children are under assault. Now, my question is, just like the chaplain said, thoughts and prayers aren't enough. We have to take action.
Yeah.
Now, what action are we going to take? Lindsey Graham, all these Republicans that are sitting there doing nothing, Biden is saying he wants to expose them. We know who they are. See, the thing about the United States is that it's dependent on a well-educated population. We have to understand how the laws should be written to protect our kids. Now, on that video, you saw how, I think it was a previous Supreme Court justice, I think it was.
Yes.
That said that the Second Amendment, if it was written today, if things were written today, the Second Amendment wouldn't even be a part of that. It was for a well-armed militia. These folks running around here are not a part of a well-armed militia. Yep. They might be some Call of Duty killers. They might be some paintball shooters. They might be some halfway decent hunters. But last time I checked, you don't need the AR to kill a deer. If you do, there's something wrong with you. In fact, if an AR round hits a deer, it explodes. Unless it's modified and lowered down to a regular rifle. But I digress. We are now in a situation where if we don't do something to get these politicians just out of office and get some people that are going to do more than say no and give half-baked ideas. So his solution, Lindsey Graham's solution was, oh, we just need to have some officers there. Officers typically carry what?
Weapons. But
no, hold on. Let me
okay,
make this.
All right.
Police officers typically carry what? If you've seen a police officer, just what we know right now, what do they typically carry on their person? I'm asking now. What do they have on them?
They got on guns.
Okay, what kind of gun does an officer typically have on?
45.
Okay, a 45 against an AR. How do you think that's going to work out?
Not too well.
So even his half-baked idea, it's not enough. It's not even close. We've got to have more common sense legislation. Now, I've put some ideas out there. I'm not a legislator. That's not my job. My job is to help diagnose and help and treat folks with mental illness. The politician's job is to create legislation that's going to protect our kids, should be first, and then their pockets second. But I think it's backwards. They protect their pockets first, and I don't think they give a about our kids. It's out here. It's proof. They're failing. So what happens when you fail on your job? You should be fired. That's how it works, right?
Yep.
They even got the laws written so that you don't even have to have a reason. You could just be fired. So why are they still employed? They're employed because of those three things we talk about on the show all the time: greed, fear, and phobias. When are we going to hold these con men responsible, kick them out so they can go back with their ARs in their homes, and put some real legislators in office that are going to protect our kids? We've got enough. We know what the problem is. We see the problem forming. I'm telling you right now, if we don't get ahead of this situation, follow the logical consequence of what's going to happen, what schools are going to look like, what's going to look like when you try to go to Walmart, go to your stores. Where is this going to continue to go? These issues and mental health issues, we're in crisis. If anybody in San Antonio right now, call the mental health agencies on the weekend and see if they have any beds available. San Antonio, what is it? San Antonio Behavioral Health, Clarity, Nix, call all of them. See if there's any beds available. If there's no beds available, what does that tell you? The mental health facilities are full. If they're full, where are the other folks that need to be someplace where they're not harming others or harming themselves?
Right.
Street. They're on the street, and then what do we have? Flooded with guns. We're going to have to get ahead of it. And what time is it right now? I know we're running late. We've got 7:41. So let me just say this. If you sell a gun and it ends up in the hands of one of these sick individuals, you need to be shut down. I don't care if it's online. I don't care if it's a business. If you sell a gun to one of these people that are mentally ill, we're going to have to get some legislation to say, you know what, you're responsible. I know they're going to say, well, that's not fair. You've been profiting long enough. You've been profiting long enough. Now we're going to have to broaden that mental health spectrum and put some teeth on it. If you get diagnosed with severe depression, if you get if you're going through, and if you know anything about this non-binary situation, when a person claims to be non-binary, they actually kill the previous person psychologically. That person no longer exists. So if you notice the young lady, she was, she was presenting as a young lady in school, but then after she graduated, she's transitioned, she became non-binary, so she presents more, I guess, as a male. And that process means you have to basically erase the previous person that you were to become this new person. And so let's just say it's not a peaceful process with your family and everything else. And it can cause people to go into depression and all the other things from what I've seen, and for the folks that I've worked with that live that lifestyle and have gone through that. So it's easy to see how somebody can fall into major depression when everything all the institutions that previously were trying to, how can I put it, mold you into what, that your parents are trying to mold you into.
Yeah.
Right. So it's more of an attack on our values. It's more of an attack on what the values are here. And I get it. This is where we are in society. But as we're going through this evolution, we got a problem here. We got a problem because our infrastructures aren't able to hold what is coming out of our institutions of education, our understanding of, we got on the dollar bill, in God we trust, but do we? Do we really trust God? Because we don't seem to be following any type of understanding of what God is. In the church I go to, we talk about unwavering truth and unconditional love. These folks are out here in these fringes. They are fighting back. They're being attacked. How many attacks have you seen on that community? LGBTQ, right? Community. How many attacks have you seen on it? Don't you think at some point these folks are going to start fighting back? Don't you think when they explode, they're not going to just kill themselves? They're going to take other people with them now? And it's a religious school, right? So obviously, why do you think she picked a religious school?
But she also went to that school too.
She went to that school. She graduated from that school.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not even going to connect those dots. I'm going to let people start thinking about where we're headed. Don't look at the mental health community to solve all the problems here. Lindsey Graham, it's on you. It's on you. It's on all these folks that are sitting in Washington getting that big check, taking them pictures with ARs. It's on y'all. It's on all y'all that are sitting there scared to stand up and hold these whack politicians accountable for what's going on. And you know what? It's also those of us that are sitting around here so scared of the wolf at the door, and we're raising the wolf in our house. That's what's really going on. Don't be so worried about what's coming over from Mexico. You need to be worried about what you're raising in your bedroom, in their bedroom. Stop being so worried about what Trump tells you to be worried about, because Trump is the wolf you need to be worried about. Ask some folks that stormed the building January 6th. Did he come to their rescue? Think about it. Open up your eyes. I know they say, I guess that's an unpopular thing to say, wake up, but hey, we got to wake up, and we need to wake up quick.
Real quick.
These numbers are not playing. These aren't real. You can look it up. All these numbers came from ABC News. You heard it. I just played it. I'm not making it up. But stop looking for us. Yeah, I got the books. I got the training. I can diagnose. I can call it. I can see it. I see it forming. And they say, well, what can we do? We can't figure this out. Yeah, you can. None of these kids grow up to be these monsters overnight. It's a process. We need to catch it early. When you start seeing a child that's not adjusting, that's not going, you got to pay attention. You mean to tell me these parents of Audrey Hale, they didn't know. They did not know that Audrey Hale was where Audrey Hale was mentally. And just like I said, with the shooter up in Buffalo, the shooter, and I was going to talk about the Crumleys today that are going to be charged with, I think it's manslaughter, right?
Right.
Because these parents knew their child had mental health issues and bought that boy a gun, right? We got to be wiser as parents. I know it's unpopular to be, they call it helicopter parents. You got to be a helicopter parent. So check this out. I'm a therapist. I'm not only a helicopter parent, I'm a Black Hawk. Not only am I going to be in my child's business, but I will move if necessary to address any threat that comes to my child on social media, in person. And yeah, I have an AR. I do. But I'm a Black man in America. I think I have a reason to protect myself. Check the news, check the stats. Okay, and I'm trained on it. I know the effectiveness of the round and when to use an AR, or when to use a 40 caliber handgun, or when to use a shotgun. I've been trained on those things. I use those things. I know what to do with it. I'm not here advertising it, but hey, I'm defending against those people jumping across the border. No, I'm worried about one of them lunatics you raising in your house that is not being watched. That's what my AR is conditioned for. Yeah. One of y'all. And if it's not careful, when I get back into the country, I might need it to go to Walmart. Don't know. And I might have to have all my food sent in. I don't know. Is that where we're headed? Because the politicians are asleep at the wheel. They're asleep. But their pockets are getting fatter, though. And we're just sitting by letting them sell us anything, playing off of the fear, greed, and phobias. Yeah, that's where we're at. That's the root of all this. It's not complicated. But I will say this: we're going to have to start getting into and catching these kids early, giving them education early when they know they're in danger. The young lady, I feel so bad for what was her name, Paige Patton. She, Audrey reached out. She only had moments. She only had moments to interact, to act at that point. When they sent that text, Paige said it. I didn't know it was this severe. I didn't know what to do. So I called my dad. I called the suicide hotline. Call 911. They can track her phone. We have the technology to track her phone.
Yeah.
Find out where she's at. I would like to just say I'm so, this is near and dear. I actually provided support in the Uvalde area where Robb Elementary, I've been to Robb Elementary School.
Yes.
Go there. Just go there. Take a look around.
It's an eerie feeling because I went there and it's a feeling you can't describe when you walk up to that school.
Listen, if we don't get a hold of this, that eerie feeling is going to continue to spread. We got to wake up. Don't just look for mental health to solve this issue. It starts at home. We got to go back to being in our kids' business. You got to go, if your child has it, you better make sure you know what's on it. Social media. It is not your child's friend. If you're not checking frequently, you could end up like Audrey Hale's parents now, wondering how in the world did they get here? These politicians, they're asleep at the wheel. We seem to be asleep at the wheel. Second Amendment, come on now. That technology, that was written in the 1800s. The technology, again, was a musket. You just heard from a Supreme Court justice that said, I wouldn't even have the Second Amendment written if it was today. It's something that's outdated. What are you worried about? We are the most policed, most well-armed country in the world. And that argument about a well-armed society is a safe society, well, I think we see now that's false, right?
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? We don't seem to have the ability to fix it on our own in terms of, policing. We got the mental health issues. We can tell you how these kids are evolving, but we don't even have the means. If we have a child that has, or a person that has homicidal or suicidal ideation, sometimes, like the officer said, if I'd have known, we could have done something. But you're not going to know until they do something. It's a loophole. So we got to close the loophole. The way I know how to do it is to put some charges, to find those places and businesses that sell these weapons, and something results in terms of a mass shooting. You pretty much a $500,000 fine per person that's killed by a weapon that you sold. Now, what's that going to do? It's going to make people do a little more research before they sell that weapon. Is that a viable option? If you get presented with homicidal or suicidal ideation, if it's homicidal ideation, I don't think a person should ever have access to a firearm. That person may get triggered again. It's not a normal process to want to go kill someone. That's not a healthy process. If you can present with that, or if you're getting major depression and it involves a suicidal ideation, for a period of 90 days, you shouldn't have access to any weapons. If a therapist diagnosed somebody with major depression, you know what can happen with that. So at that point, is it too far of a stretch to issue a warrant and go in, make sure that person doesn't have an AR, a semi-automatic handgun? Is that too hard to figure out?
Yeah.
Aren't these folks the ones that went to law school and the most educated folks that we can't figure that out? It's not complicated. It's not like our kids' lives aren't dependent on it. I'll say that again. Maybe that didn't sit with somebody. It's not like our kids' lives don't depend on it. Now, I don't know about y'all, but every day my child leaves home, I'm concerned. I'm praying for my child. You just saw it. I had to go out there and pray, and I pray that my child's going to make it home safe every day. Well, it's some politician that could help in that process sitting there collecting a check in Washington. Lindsay got to go. Santos got to go. Anybody that's wearing that little AR on there, on a tie and all that, they got to go. Marjorie Green got to go. All of them got to go. If you're not willing to stand up for our kids, you got to go. Where's the lawsuit against those members of Congress and Senate that have failed horribly in their job and left our kids vulnerable and still think that they should be able to have a job next year? Shame on them. Shame on us as American people that have allowed these folks to still have a position and think they can sit up there and pretend like, oh, well, it's a mental health issue and we don't know. Let's uncover the facts, man. This ain't Dragnet. This ain't Columbo. You know what the facts are. Another lunatic got an AR and shot up a school. What facts more do you need? The fact is, you need to be out of here until it happens to one of your kids. Until you have to look into the anguish of one of these parents that lost their child. How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. Part of the reason why I got to get out the country. Take a break.
Yep.
Because I've looked in these faces for years. And I look at these politicians hiding behind the smoke and mirrors in Washington. And we sitting here letting them produce fear and phobias based on greed, and we still aren't figuring it out. Well, where's my wallet? It's in my other room. In God we trust, huh? Maybe that's the God they trust in the dollar bill. Because it's showing the one that I worship. We have to have a little common sense with this legislation. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah.
Tired of it. And you know what? We're not just talking about it. We're doing something about it. All right. So everybody that's watching this show that's tired of it, as I am, start writing, start calling, and we got to overflow Washington with our disgust. We got to overflow the Capitol building with our disgust. What Trump say? It's time to protest. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
This is what we need to protest about. Not sending his butt to jail. Yeah, because hopefully he's going to go. I don't know. We so broken, who knows what's going to happen. But this we can't afford to keep sliding. So with that, I know you got to go at 7:58, so we're going to get you out here at 8 o'clock. Hey, what's the word? Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. Got to go.
Yeah. All right, Joseph. We appreciate it. Good show. Good things that you brought up. Good points. And we're gonna expand next week a little longer to take care of everything that's coming in, because I know we're gonna get calls coming in. I know we're gonna have all this coming, so we're gonna do a little longer next week.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And remember, we got to get this YouTube chat because I want to go. There's a lot more I want to go into this.
Yeah,
right? I really see a problem, and we've been talking about it for a while, and the problem is accelerating. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said this is a pandemic.
Yeah.
It's the number one killer of kids in America. We can't make that point enough. It's the number one killer of kids in America with your guns. So you can't tell me guns aren't the problem. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Think about it. If whatever is the number one killer of kids in America, it has to be dealt with. I don't care what it is. If it was anything else other than guns, wouldn't it be? We would stop everything. But it's guns. So we're allowing it to go on because of some bastardized version of understanding of the Second Amendment. Come on now.
Exactly.
Come
Exactly.
on. All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
brother. I appreciate it. Take care. Talk to you later, Joseph.
Bye.
All right. Goodbye.